We're ready to roll. A big shout out to you for your donations, which made the march possible. And a big shout out to the following organizations that provided their services to us at no cost or for very little cost. The Buncombe County Rescue Squad, the Blue Ridge Pride Festival, the Moth Light for hosting a successful fundraiser last Sunday, Western Carolina University for organizing a social justice event, the ACLU, Leaf for this wonderful sound system, Abel, John, Lisa, thank you so much for your help, the Block of Biltmore for hosting some of our events. And don't forget, it's Women Run, for women's event, for human rights. And I hope that you come to the Biltmore after this march to celebrate the rest of the day. I want to also thank the Patton Avenue Pet Company store who kindly retailed our t-shirts and merchandise. I want to thank our American Sign Language translators. I want to thank the Rise Flash Mob volunteers. And all of our volunteers today. One last thank you to the city of Asheville for all of their guidance, and one person in particular, and that person know who he or she is. And if you don't know who you are, here's a hint. Your sister's birthday is today, and all she wanted for her birthday is to come to this march. Happy birthday to you! Let's give a warm round of applause to all of our volunteers and to you for being here. And don't forget, if you have $1 or $2 for Planned Parenthood, to fill up those bags. Ariel Jacobson, a member of our youth committee, is now going to introduce our first speaker, Chelsea White.
Hi guys! Thank you for coming out today in this really frigid weather. I just want to say, you guys feel how cold it is today? There is a really large homeless community in Asheville, and that's why the beloved House of Asheville are taking donations for equipment to use for cold weather. Gloves, hats, tents, whatever you have, bring it to this house. They are such a staple in this community, and we should do everything we can to help them and the other people of this community out. Chelsea White is a local community organizer who grew up in Jackson County, North Carolina. Chelsea got her start in organizing while studying at Western Carolina University, where she mobilized student voters and advocated for diversity and safety on campus. In 2018, she earned a Master of Social Work, which she is now using to organize poor and working folks with Down Home in North Carolina, an organization that works to create sustainable solutions for affordable housing, jobs and wages, healthcare, mental health, and addiction. Welcome to the stage, Chelsea White! Can you hear me? How are we doing today? Are you freezing? It is so exciting to be here today, despite the cold and despite the fact that I am literally wearing 3 right now. Nothing fills my heart with pride more than when people show up despite the elements and despite all of the odds that are stacked against them. My name is Chelsea White, and I am here today because I am a proud Appalachian woman. The first thing that I want to do today is thank you for showing up. I grew up just a little bit farther west of here in Jackson County, and the reason that I am a proud Appalachian woman is because it has always been the women in my life who are showing up when it has mattered the most. Showing up to shine their light in the darkest corners of my own struggling, to guide me towards a better, brighter future so that eventually I could end up right here, surrounded by other powerful women, all working towards the same vision. I see myself and us taking on their legacy now. I see us now as women showing up and taking on that role for our community that those women played for me. It is not an easy role. It is a role of healing and a role of growing. And as y'all know, wounds hurt when they are being prepped for healing. And we all experience growing pains. Thank you for showing up today because that is the first step. Our job now is to dig in, to shine our light into the darkest corners of our communities struggling, to reveal our deepest pain and our fears, because until we do that, we will not be able to begin to guide ourselves and our communities out of that darkness. If we don't address our wounds, we cannot clean them, and they will get infected. We see this happening now. The infection is spreading through our communities as the pain and the fear of our neighbors is turned into hate, into vitriol, and into division. Even within our own movement, we see this happening. Within the Women's March, we are fighting among ourselves, saying, who does this march belong to? Instead of asking ourselves, how do we improve? How do we grow so that this march belongs to all of us? As Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just said in her own Women's March address, this isn't about identity. This is about justice. This is about justice for women, for brown women, for trans women, for black women, for Muslim women, for Jewish women, and for the children of every woman, no matter where they are born. When we step away from this march, that's when our real work begins. When we shine our light into the darkest corners of our community to start this healing process, it is not going to be easy. But I need y'all to see it through, because it's going to be worth it. I need y'all to walk away from here committed to understanding your neighbor, understanding their pain, and how your pain is connected to their pain, so that we can be better committed towards a future that works for all of us. While we are pushing for more access to health care, for better wages for all workers, for all children to have a fair chance in this world, what we are really fighting against is the intersection of white supremacy and capitalist exploitation. To take the words of Southerners on new ground, traditions run deep here. Both traditions of repression, structural white supremacy, and also traditions of collective resistance and resilience. This land has seen hundreds of years of white supremacy, conquest, rape, bloodshed, violence, chains, wickedness, and torches, but it has also seen hundreds of years of resistance, struggle, burying the sacred and fists raised high. When you walk away from here, will you be ready to do it with your fists raised high and ready to dig discomfort? Will you stand up and demand that everyone has access to the healthcare and treatment that they need, including our neighbors that are dying from overdose and substance use? Will you stand up and demand that every worker has access to a comfortable livelihood, including restaurant workers, domestic workers, childcare workers, and migrant workers? If you aren't ready, if we aren't ready to leave here with our fists raised high, then I fear we will never see the world that I dream about every night. Because the truth is, showing up is the first step, but it is not enough. We know that people in positions of power are perfectly happy with the conditions of our communities. In fact, they are profiting off of keeping us impoverished. No one is going to hand this to us, which means we have to leave here ready to take it. The first step is to show up. The second step is to dig into and recognize our shared struggle. And then we have to fight if we are going to win. Are you ready to fight? Are you ready to dig into this system that institutionally oppresses and brutalizes our brothers and sisters of color? Are you ready to dig into the system that criminalizes our immigrant brothers and sisters? Are you ready to dig into the system that locks rural, working class white folks out of economic opportunity and pits us against our neighbors instead of against the people in power that have been pulling the strings? Are you ready to sacrifice some of your comfort to stand out in the snow any chance you get to reach our end goal? I am here to tell you tonight that when you look around you, or this morning, that when you look around you and see these faces, this is a new wave of defiance growing in the mountains. And that defiance is made of women. It is made of young and old, and it is made of every color in the rainbow. We are fighting for a collective vision, not only of the world that might be, but of the world as it is. A world of everyday, courageous women who do not resist history, but who create it. As women organizing in the rural parts of our state, the women of down home and the women around you are a part of the legacy of our ancestors' fire and bravery to preserve both mountain people and this land. We are digging in, we are getting uncomfortable, and we are shining our light. Thank you. Hi, marchers! Is everyone feeling pumped up? My name's Ruby, and I'm here today because I believe in change. Do you? I'm a 12-year-old girl up on this stage in front of thousands of people. No matter what your situation may be, you can make a difference. And sure, being up here is way out of my comfort zone. But with the way the world is right now, we all need to get out of our comfort zones. And I know that sometimes we feel hopeless, but let me tell you something. Together, we are a force. And believe me, we are a force to be reckoned with. Together, we can eliminate the idea that women are distractions. Together, we can create a society built out of love instead of hate. So let's get the Equal Rights Amendment ratified in all 50 states. And let's elevate each other, no matter our class, abilities, race, gender identity, religious beliefs, or political standpoint. Because guess what? We are all people. We are all Homo sapiens, and homo means same. So we should all have access to the same rights. Let me rephrase that. We will have access to the same rights. Because until we do, we are going to keep marching. Marching for change and marching for love. This world isn't perfect, but we have the power to improve it. Inside each and every one of us is a spark. So let's set this world on fire.
All right, I'm here to introduce our next speaker, who is Mandy Carter. She's a Durham-based social justice activist with a 51-year movement history of social, racial, and LGBT justice organizing since 1967. The year 2020 marks the 100th anniversary of the 19th Constitutional Amendment, giving women the right to vote. So remember that. Ms. Carter was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize as part of the 1,000 Women for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2005 in order to recognize, make visible, and celebrate the impressive and valuable, yet often invisible peace work of thousands of women around the world. It's my honor to introduce to you Mandy Carter.
So, here we sit. I must say I bring you greetings from my home city, Durham, North Carolina. And I also must say, to look at these signs out here, someone is very creative. But I was not told when I left Durham when it was 50 degrees it would be snow and 20 degrees at Asheville. Just kind of had kidding on that point. So I want to say hello, Asheville Women's March 2019. I bring you greetings from the National Black Justice Coalition, founded in 2003. We are a national civil rights, we are a national civil rights organization dedicated to the empowerment of black, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and same-gender loving people. And our mission is a simple one, to end racism and homophobia. Some water. And since tomorrow is the Martin Luther King Jr. National Holiday, and we're here in Martin Luther King National Park, I must say this is perfect timing, because for those of us who are black, lesbian, women, feminist, I can't think of a better place to be at this time in this day. I have to take a drink of water, do you mind? Can I just do a little roll call real quick? Anyone here from the Triangle area, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill? Anyone here from Eastern North Carolina? Anyone here from Asheville? Warren Wilson College? Anyone from the historically black colleges and universities? We have 11 of them. I hope that some of y'all are here. But I'm here to say we got some work to do, and this is my message. My message today is this, about mobilizing our women's vote for the critical upcoming November 3rd, 2020 elections. If you have an iPhone or anything, put that date in your calendar right now. Noting that here in North Carolina, our female population is now 51%. We are the majority. It should also be noted that nationally, we, post-World War II baby boomers, anyone in the audience born between the years of 1946 and 1964, please raise your hands. There's 74 million of us. Anyone here between the ages of 20 and 35, raise your hands. You're about ready to outnumber us. Anyone born between after whatever, anyone I didn't mention, raise your hand. And are there any babies in the audience? Children, where are you? All right. But here's one that's critical. Here's one that's critical. By 2050, if not sooner, this country will be majority people of color. I'll repeat what I just said. By 2050, if not sooner, this country will be majority people of color. Keeping in mind, this is critical, who was already here, indigenous to these lands before any ships pulled up to these shores? There were people here, and we're standing on those lands right now. But here's the most important thing, I can count. So if you add in the baby boomers and y'all, little children and going up, you put those numbers together, and this is what I'm suggesting we think about. Keeping in mind November 3rd, 2020. I have to change the page, my fingers are cold, I have to just tick this off for a minute. I'm getting there. All right, I'm ready. I can count. If ever there was a time for us to be doing intentional, multiracial, multi-generational voter education, voter registration, and get out the vote, mobilizing and coalition building, it is now, with only 652 days to go before November 3rd, 2020. And speaking of multi-generational voter mobilization coalition building, can I get a show of hands of anyone who is 16-year-olds today, any 16-year-olds in this audience right now? Put them up. Because you, starting today, need to take a pledge. At the age of 16, anyone who's going to be 18 by 23rd, 2020, you're it. So we're going to start mobilizing you all. Are you going to take a pledge? Are you going to take a pledge? Okay. That said, I'm getting near the end. We need you. In closing, I do want to make something else clear. Lori already said it. 2020 will mark the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution signed on August 26, 1920, stating, "The rights of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex." That gave the women the right to vote in 2020. And don't forget, we're only 1 or 2 states away from the ERA, Equal Rights Amendments. And North Carolina or Virginia might be the state to bring it ahead. So I'm going to end with a quote from someone who I deeply admire, and if you don't know her, Google her, Shirley Chisholm. Here's her quote. "Women in this country must become revolutionaries. We must refuse to accept the old traditional roles and stereotypes. We must replace the old negative thoughts with positive thoughts and positive actions affirming it and more. But we also must remember that we will be breaking with tradition, and so we must prepare ourselves educationally, economically, and psychologically in order that we should be able to accept and bear with the sanctions that society that will immediately impose upon us." So I want to close with the following chant that we had from Memorial Monday movement. We're going to do it 3 times. Forward, together, not one step back. Forward, together, not one step back. Forward, together, not one step back. Thank you.
Hey y'all, my name is Gracie, and today I'm introducing Sophie Payne, who's a freshman at UNC Chapel Hill, double majoring in creative writing and film. She spends a great deal of time in the darkroom photo lab, focusing on interconnected nature of imagery and expression. I'm also introducing Cecilia Tucker, who is a senior at Asheville High School. She hoped for a career promoting mental health advocacy and LGBTQ rights.
Okay, ready? Here, a collection of images for being a woman.
Here, a woman with the wings of a moth. No, a moth with the legs of a woman, too heavy to fly but light enough to sit on the porch all day, under the fan lamp full of last year's wind. Here, in 1920, there is a moment when we seem to have reached something without burning.
And here, the first thing that went out were the house lights, and maybe I was just trying to wake myself up. Her smile is blinking, or maybe that's backwards, and we are leaving our old selves over everything, aren't we?
In 1973, a woman took hold of another woman's camouflage, said, "You've done nothing wrong."
And I have never asked myself out loud before why I am so ashamed of expecting better.
In here, the radio in my car is an insect.
No, the radio in my car is a woman.
Her legs are the space between channels, the unwanted frequency, static dressed in gold hoops. There are more than 11,000 types of moths in the U.S. alone, and some of them are bigger than songbirds, and some of them are so small they could live inside of you.
And I'm wondering if it's awful to love something that is so desperate for a brighter future.
In here, if roof shingles had a voice, they would be hysterical. If roof shingles had a voice, she would be the chimney of the latest months of the year, the nipple of a home cast pink off the sky like first snow.
No, here, June 26, 2015, I ate light for the first time and did not feel guilty for it.
Here, November 2016, we all have questions. No, she has these questions, these one-eyed insects, these bodies of parsley and a hole of radio sound.
Suddenly, the collar of my shirt is a map. My well-formed continent breaking into pieces, becoming separate, holes in everything. My old town, my old country is still sweating me off.
She is the ground. She is falling everywhere.
No, the air is downed like birds.
Feminine. So many that the sky turns summer colors. Mourning doves caught in the dams.
Here, in 2017, my mother cries watching TV, and I remember that caterpillars dissolve into liquid before becoming themselves, and I think, how could they possibly know when it's time? And in 2018, I am called names I would never say to a child, and I turn into water.
Here, 2019, she sits naked on the porch in the rocking chair.
No, I sit naked on the porch in the rocking chair.
No, I am a moth with the legs of a woman, too boiled to be touched, with an anger so dense it assembles into a new body part, but no longer flightless.
All right. Next is Jay Slaughter. Jay is a graduate in political science with a minor in history from UNCA. Today, she works with youth to discover how we can use art to find the power in our collective stories. Welcome, Jay.
Hey guys. It's too cold to pull out my piece of paper and read it. My car door was frozen when I came out this morning. But y'all are out here, so that means y'all are committed, right? That's really important. That's really important because we have really big work ahead of us. We're in the middle of a national crisis, which a lot of y'all know. Like, this is at the level of a nationwide fire, like the ones that burned down cities in the past year, or like the floods that keep happening in Asheville, or like the droughts that are happening in California. This is a nationwide emergency, like a tornado or a hurricane, but it's worse because it's a man-made disaster. It's malicious and intentional, and this shutdown is going to stop people from having access to food and to housing and to a lot of other things. And there's a lot of stories that are not being told within this shutdown. So there's not gonna be a lot of room for cheers in this, but I'm gonna tell you guys a story, because as you heard, I'm an academic and I'm also an artist, which means I care about data and I care about the stories that make them up. So we're sitting here in MLK Park, and it makes me think of one of my favorite stories from US history, because I think of that man, and then I think of the city of Birmingham, and then I think of the women that made that happen. So I can't tell the story of Birmingham without telling you the story of Reese Taylor. Reese Taylor was a black woman who was walking home during this era in Alabama when 5 men took her, and she experienced the violence that too many people have had to experience and continue to. And after this violent act, they pushed her out of the car and they said, if you tell your story, the price will be your life. But she went home and she told her father her story. And then her father told someone that story, and then that person told someone that story, and eventually a woman heard it. And that woman knocked on Reese Taylor's door and asked to hear this story, because this woman had been doing story collecting across that city, and she'd heard too many stories like Reese Taylor's. So she was able to get the women to pool together to tell their stories. And they were gathering in living rooms before Microsoft Word, before printers. They were using printing presses. So this took hours and hours and hours to make these flyers. And these women were talking and sharing stories with each other. And these flyers were to get people to come to the churches for meetings. And they got together in these churches and put out the story, the real story of Birmingham that these women were having to experience, because this was widespread, this violence. But in the process of telling their stories, of driving each other to each other's houses to do the printing, and then to the churches to have the meetings so they could try to change the story of Birmingham, they built a network. And I was always interested in the story of the Montgomery bus boycott, because I never understood how an entire city of people who were sharing the story, which is the story of being black in the South, they were able to organize for an entire year to divest from a system that wasn't working for them. And I always wondered how they were able to do that. And it was because of the network that these women had built by telling their stories together. And the woman that knocked on the door of Reese Taylor was Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was not a meek, feeble, or tired woman. She was a black woman, elder, organizer, who was bringing us together in our stories. And the story of Birmingham was able to change over that decades of work. And the story of Birmingham changed the nation. The story of this nation has touched the world. And that's what the power of stories can do. So we're here in Asheville. And I want you guys to know I've read about Asheville in the national news 4 times in the past 2 years, and none of the times have been good. They've been stories of violence, and the most recent one is the story of violence against a 12-year-old girl. So I want you to know that Asheville's being watched by a lot of people for a lot of great reasons and a lot of horrible reasons. So we have a story to tell, and I want us to think about the stories that are not being listened to and how we can lift them up, especially as we fight against this man-made unnatural disaster that is striking our country. Let's listen to the stories of those affected and the solutions that they have, because we are the intersection of so many stories right here. And collectively, we can change the story of what is into what can be. So thank you guys.
It is my honor to introduce Allison Scott. Allison is a proud Asheville native who attended Reynolds and Irwin High Schools, as well as AV Tech. She is passionate about community outreach, politics, activism, cares deeply about Asheville, and works daily to ensure that Asheville is a welcoming community for its minorities and marginalized populations. Allison identifies as a trans woman and is Director of Policy and Programs at the Campaign for Southern Equality. She has developed and led numerous trainings for local organizations, including schools, churches, and businesses, and has established a name change initiative for trans people. She also has the world's best 8-year-old son who brings joy to her life every day. Please welcome to the stage, Allison Scott.
We're seeing that all the time. When I was first asked to speak today, this brought up this long-running discussion I've had over the years about what makes a woman a woman. Have any of you ever really stopped to ask yourself that? For myself, another part of that question is how being transgender fits in. If I don't fit the traditional narrative of what a woman is, am I really a woman? And if I'm not a woman, why do I have this feeling of being one? Then, of course, because my brain doesn't stop, my next question I ask myself is, what exactly does it take to even be a woman in this world? And if I don't have all the traditional experiences cis women have, could I ever measure up to what society has told me a woman should be? Obviously, this question isn't hard enough because I like to make everything a little harder. So I started wondering, where does being transgender end and being a woman begin? Trans women and cis women are constantly policed on our appearance and actions. Too much makeup, we're trying too hard. Too little or none, and we're not trying hard enough. Does this sound familiar to any women out there? And as a trans woman, if I wear a dress, people say I have a clothes fetish. If I don't put on something traditionally labeled female, I'm told I could pass, as if I'm trying to pass for something I'm not already. How many times do we hear women shame for our looks and clothes? Did I get that comment because I'm trans or because I'm a woman? I'm a little confused. Women's bodies are under constant scrutiny, and I don't know of a single trans person that hasn't been questioned by others about their body, what parts we may or may not have. This policing of our body enforces the narrative that we need to justify our existence, or that being trans is something we need to fix with surgeries. And just like cis women, this incessant focus on our bodies dehumanizes us, making our looks and bodies the talking point instead of, do we have access to quality health care? Do our parts make us who we are? Women have been fighting for centuries to be measured on our abilities and not our bodies. For anyone to use what's under our clothes as an argument to invalidate trans people would be the antithesis of what women have struggled for throughout time. Over the last couple of years, we've seen more and more women bravely coming forward to call out sexual harassment and assaults. Recent surveys show that 77% of women have endured sexual harassment. Other surveys by the Williams Institute show that 85% of transgender people have experienced sexual harassment. And we know these numbers are even higher in populations of trans women of color. I've personally been told to smile because it makes me prettier, catcalled, and groped in public. Sadly, this sounds like the experience of women to me. That's why I think the real problem for a lot of people is that trans women challenge this narrative of what it means to be a woman. There isn't one way to be a woman, and none of us could live up to some unattainable goal of what the perfect woman should be. We may all share some experiences and not others, but we can't use those differences to tear each other down. Trans women don't need to pass, and cis women don't have to conform to stereotypical femininity. Being on a different path being trans doesn't take away from being a woman. It just means I arrived here by a different path. And those differences from other women are something to be proud of and not something to fix. So I ask that all women find strength and knowledge in those women different from you. And by embracing our diversity and differences, we are going to move forward together. Thank you.
All right, our last speaker is Dr. Elizabeth Colton. She's broken barriers for women in her career, bridging education, journalism, diplomacy, civil and women's rights, and politics. She's basically fought all her life for social justice. Currently, she teaches global diplomacy courses at the United Nations and speaks worldwide on diplomacy, politics, and the news. Please welcome to the stage Elizabeth Colton.
Hey, y'all, I'm from here. I grew up here, and I started asking when I was a little girl, why? Why don't we have the same rights? Why do the girls not get to do anything? And I'm also speaking today, I'm going to abbreviate my talk because I really want to make some really important short points. First of all, I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, Marie Waters Colton, who was born 2 years after women won or were finally accorded the vote. And she just died last year at almost 96. She had fought her whole life for women's rights. As many of you know, she was in the legislature, and she put right at the beginning of her first campaign, which she lost in 1976, ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. Again, she ran again. They said, oh, she's running again, a woman? Why? She ran again in 78 and she won, and she had equal rights for women on her campaign. She and the women of Western North Carolina organized to have many, many women from Western North Carolina come down to Raleigh in 1982 to fight, to push for the Equal Rights Amendment ratification. Unfortunately, the opposition came in with a lot of heavies from the outside, and they were able to defeat it ultimately in the full legislature. But my mother never quit having women's rights the cornerstone of her all of her campaigns. The most important thing is that we now have a chance again this year to make North Carolina the state that ratifies the Equal Rights Amendment. We need it. We need it in our Constitution for our rights to be acknowledged. Please, everyone, go out and urge all of your friends, everybody you know, and all of us to tell our elected officials in the legislature to vote for the ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. Thank you.
Hi, you're brave and frozen people. My name is Melody Galloway, and I'm the director of the Asheville Choral Society.
Hey y'all, my name is Susanna Park, and I'm a native Ashevillean, and I'm the director of the Wild Asheville Community Chorus.
And we, with our sisters, the director Simone, the director of the Asheville Gay Men's Chorus, both of them are under the weather as we're in the weather. And also Althea, who is the director of the
Women's Song.
Of Women's Song, yes. So singers, we're going to wrap it up today. Lift your voices, it will warm you up. This song is called Be the Change. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. And change will come to you.
That's a chorus.
Be the voice. Be the voice you want to be in the world. Be the voice you want to hear in the world. Be the voice you want to hear in the world. And change will come to you. Be the light. Be the light you want to shine in the world. Be the light you want to shine in the world. Be the light you want to shine in the world. And change will come to you. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. And change will come to you. All right.
Those words are adopted from the words of Gandhi, and the music was made by Mark Kaplan and Colin Britt of Jersey City, New Jersey. This is a couple years ago. One more song, but before we sing that, turn around and look at each other. This movement is not about the people that you see standing on the stage alone, but it is you as well. So make a friend. If you didn't introduce yourself yet, introduce yourself. Squeeze in closer, put your hands in each other's hands, link arms, and we're going to step with our right foot and our left foot. This is a song written by Melanie DeMoore of Oakland, California. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other. We're marching together. Right foot, left foot. Here we go. Right foot, go. You gotta put one foot in front of the other. Warm your toes. And lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. on.
Keep moving on.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
So there you gotta put one. Lift up your voice
and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other
and lead with love.
Lift up your eyes.
Lift up your eyes.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
Don't give up hope.
Don't give up hope.
Keep moving on.
Keep moving on. Well, you gotta put one foot in front of the other
and lead with love.
Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Yes, you gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
I know you're scared.
I know you're scared.
And I'm scared too.
And I'm scared too.
But here I am.
But here I am.
Right next to you.
Right next to you.
So we gotta
put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Yeah, you gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta lead with love. You got to lead with love. You got to lead with love. Lead with love.
Yeah, y'all. Sing it out.
Love you. Be safe. Thank you.
All right, you're still here. Thank you. We're almost done. The flash mob people here? Where are the flash mob folks? Where's Katrina? We need her right here soon. Send her over. Thanks for coming out in the cold. Are your hands cold? Is your heart warm? That's what I want to hear. Thanks for showing your support for women's rights. Not just this year, not just last year, but for probably as long as you've been born. Thank you. Thanks to our community, Asheville. Thanks for you for coming out. And now, let's dance. Yo, don't you leave yet! Wait! We're gonna dance, I told you! You ready to dance? Did you practice? I heard some yes! Did you practice? It's okay if you haven't! Don't run real fast! It's coming! After they're done, go home, have some warm tea or coffee.
Hide away, they say.